Hey everybody, and welcome to In the Running, the podcast where we bring your local elections to life.
We're your hosts, Maid Apkiss and Olivia Self, two rising juniors at Mountain Brook High School.
We started this podcast to help inform local voters on who is running in their local elections and what those positions do on a citywide scale.
So, we're interviewing candidates and asking the real questions about their goals, values, and what they want to do for your communities across Alabama.
No spin, no speeches, just honest conversation with the people who want to lead your city.
This is In the Running.
Hello everyone, and welcome to In the Running. We're your hosts, Olivia Self
And Maid Apkiss, and today we are joined by Mr. Nick Sims, who is running for Homewood City Council Ward 2.
Hello, everyone.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? We want to know something about you that's interesting outside of your campaign.
Absolutely. Well, I'll just go way back and tell you a little bit about where I grew up. So, I grew up the son of Larry and Radonna Sims in rural Coleman, Alabama. My parents actually adopted me when I was a month old. First month I spent living with nuns and was adopted through Catholic Community Services, and grew up with my parents in Coleman. They had a family business, which was a sawmill, which I worked, after school and also every summer growing up. And so that kind of instilled the values of like hard work in me, and something that I really pride myself on today. And even when I was growing up, my parents, working those long days in the sawmill in the hot sun, they would say, remember, if you, want to do something with your life, make sure you go to college, because my sister and I were the first ones in our family who actually went to college. So, so really my parents instilled a lot of my core values of hard work, also public service, caring for others. And they really, are still in Coleman and very special to me. And just some of my background of who I am, and keep that close to my heart.
How'd you get into the whole public service government scene?
Yeah. Well, so I went to undergraduate at South Alabama, which is where my sister went. I mentioned a second ago that she was the first one in her family to go to school. 2 years later, I followed her there, got a degree in economics, was interested in going to law school. Actually took a year, worked in Birmingham at a law firm called Berkowitz, Lefkowitz, Isom & Kushner, did legal support there, took the LSAT, was applying to law school, was into a number of law schools, including Cumberland locally, and really just changed course and pivoted to go into AmeriCorps. I worked for 2 years as an AmeriCorps member in Oregon, supporting low-income entrepreneurs through a micro enterprise development program. Stood those up at Chemeketa Community College and their small business development center in Salem, Oregon, and then Corvallis Neighborhood Housing Services in Corvallis, Oregon. And after that, I really had made up my mind that I wanted to make a career out of public service. So I came back to UAB, received my master's in public administration.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay. How does your background uniquely prepare you for this position? I know you talked about your family values and all of that. Do you have anything else that you want to expand on that gives you more of a background in this place?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned the public administration degree, and I had a concentration in community development and planning. And so one of my first jobs was working at Land Planning and Development Services with the Jefferson County Commission. I worked there a few years, then I transitioned and contractually worked with United Way and also Regional Planning Commission of Greater Birmingham to really embrace the livable, walkable communities philosophy of community design, and also in particular a safe routes to school program. Because really, if you want to understand complete streets or walkable communities, if you can make it safe in the eyes of a child in their route to school, that's really a perspective where a lot of people can resonate to. And you can also talk about the infrastructure and other community and public safety supports needed to make that happen. So then I progressed and have now been at United Way full-time since 2015. And it's that work that has kind of given me the experience to want to be a counselor. And the first time I ran in 2020, one of the things I saw that Homewood needed was a full-time city manager. In the public administration program at UAB, one of my professors was longtime city manager of Mountain Brook, Sam Gaston. and he's always been a mentor and someone I've spoke with about, city administration, city management for Homewood. I ran with prioritizing having Homewood have a full-time professional city manager because I just saw that we needed that for transparency, for full-time accountability in City Hall. We had missing functions in City Hall, and really we just wanted to make sure that our taxpayer dollars that all our residents pay, including my household, that it's really accountable in delivering the best services for our residents. So city manager role was one of the reasons I first ran for this current term that I'm finishing up serving now.
We want to know, if you were to be elected, what would be your top 3 measurable goals?
Top 3 measurable goals. That's a good question. Okay, so I think number 1 is just the creation of a comprehensive plan, a revised comprehensive plan for the city of Homewood. We haven't revised our citywide master plan since 2007, and so that's been about 18 years. We should be revising that every 5 to 10 years. So 2026 represents Homewood's 100-year anniversary, their centennial. So it's a good time to honor our past, but also look forward with a vision to the future. So a comprehensive plan is a great way to do that, where we can both protect the character and charm of places people love about Homewood, downtown Homewood, 18th Street, Edgewood Strip, protecting the Rosedale community and environmentally important places to our city, and also looking at what do residents want to see for managed growth in our city. We're a city of 8.3 square miles, landlocked, 3,300 people per square mile. There's nowhere else that has over 3,000 residents per square mile. So we're very dense by comparison, but that's what makes us unique. So we have to be strategic in our planning. So the creation of a strategic comprehensive plan is number 1. Number 2 has got to be improving stormwater management. For all the reasons I just said, we got to make sure that our residents' property values are protected and not at risk of flooding and other drainage issues, which they have to deal with because of the adjacent property. So we've actually put a lot of work into that this term. One of the things we did was we hired a full-time city engineer. We created a stormwater master plan. We put $4+ million into stormwater sewer infrastructure in the ground to improve our capacity. And then we've also looked at a lot by lot situation and reduced the amount of impervious surfaces, hardscapes that is on any given lot, so that the water actually retains, it doesn't just run off the lot. It actually is absorbed in, so that you're not just pushing it down to the next landowner, or even just flooding our storm sewer infrastructure, too quickly. And what that means for residents is, in 2021, we had the Crescent Apartments flood, and some residents had to be evacuated overnight by our fire department. We've had a lot of basements flood, but with some of this work now, actually, we've been improved from a grade like FEMA Class City 9 to a FEMA Class City 7. And what that means, just with the work we've done this term, and what that means is that if you're required to carry flood insurance on your home, you're actually now paying 15% less on your premium because of that reduction in classification. So continuing measurable implementation of the Stormwater Master Plan would be my second thing. And then I think third would just be looking at, I was talking about safe routes to school work earlier and walkable communities. It's important that we continue to connect residents to the places and destinations they want to visit, parks, schools, and even our small businesses in Homewood. So I think the prioritization would be looking at our implementation of complete streets and connectivity within Homewood. So looking at key gaps. I think about Salter Road having a gap, near Broadway is a dangerous area, but without a sidewalk where a lot of people use it. I think about Valley Avenue near the middle school is another being a key gap. I think filling in those gaps, and it's measurable because we'll look at new sidewalk linear feet. We'll look at new ADA accessibility improvements made. We'll look at sidewalk maintenance and other things that can be tracked as we implement our complete streets and connectivity throughout the city.
Yeah, those are a great top 3. You talk a lot about transparency in your campaign, and I was just wondering if you have any plans to ensure communication and transparency between the council and the residents of the city of Homewood.
Absolutely. So I think that the city manager role itself, the creation of that position, that office, support staff, will really help with responsiveness to residents when they have an issue. Also, the city manager role will be a position that collects data, looks proactively at issues, and communicates with residents in advance. But hopefully before issues even really um, get too big, but definitely before decisions are made. Um, Throughout my term, some of the things we've tried to do already to improve communication with residents. For one, I've sent a monthly newsletter to try to keep all the residents in my ward informed of council matters and things upcoming. I've also worked with the city to make sure that all like Board of Zoning Adjustment, Planning Commission case packets are available online for residents to review prior to those meetings, because it's hard to actually provide feedback at a public hearing if you haven't actually seen the details of what's going on. So the same information that our Planning Commission members get, our residents are getting as well. And another thing, we've just kind of worked on improving social media, coordination with the Homewood Star and publicizing things coming up with the city. But one of the things I heard when I ran last time was that people wish there was some type of a tool like a citizen portal where you could report issues or express feedback and concerns to the city. And we've created that this year online, or this term. It's called Speak to Us Homewood. And it just allows people to report potholes, report other issues and concerns they have, so that we can make sure that it gets kind of tracked through a system, routed to the appropriate staff, and make sure that it's closed out and addressed. And again, I think the city manager role will help with all of that in implementation, because he's there as a full-time administrator to do that interdepartmental coordination that's so necessary.
For sure, yeah. Okay. One thing that comes to mind when we talk about transparency and communication was the recent shooting of Jabari Peoples and the call of the residents to release the footage and the family to get closure on it. Do you believe that the government has the responsibility to release that footage to the residents that they serve when they call for it?
I think I'm going to step back in answering that question and just kind of talk through, I think, leading up to that event, and then a little bit about that question specifically. So when I first started in 2020 on council, in early 2021, we actually started doing a review of Homewood Police Department's use of force policy. And that involved Chief Ross, members of the police department, and residents to go through and talk about Homewood's use of force policy. And then that policy is online. We made sure that there's transparency in having that posted online. Subsequently, we've also made sure in time on council to fund body cameras, to also fund training on unconscious bias, de-escalation, crisis intervention. And then in turn, we've also made sure that our public safety workers are paid what they deserve by increasing by two steps in 2023 what we were paying police and fire. And that's really needed because we were having issues losing public safety officers to other jurisdictions. And if we were training and investing in those staff, we need to keep highly qualified, trained staff in our department. So we've definitely been aware of concerns of police use of force and tried to be proactive. Mm-hmm. And then you can just kind of end it there and move into specifically the situation, which I don't have any details of the incident, right? As the investigation has been conducted through ALEA. And today, actually, they've turned it over to District Attorney Danny Carr, who's going to review it, and subsequently, I would imagine very soon, review the camera footage with the family. As a jurisdiction, we have definitely wanted the family to be able to see the footage for the sake of clarity and transparency, and made those calls to ALEA early on. The incident occurred on Monday. As of Tuesday, the next morning, I was already in discussion with the mayor, the city manager, and other councilors about what we could do in support of the family and transparency in the incident. ALEA had jurisdiction over that. So the best we could do was, at that point, became to just publicly as counselors independently and as a city, ask for ALEA to expedite the review of the case and get to a point where you could view it with a family. There are a couple of things that I think play into that. There was a 2021 Alabama Supreme Court case, which actually says that dash cam footage and body camera footage is not part of the Freedom of Information Act. So you can access it, or you can't request it just as like public record. It is a restricted type of record. And then 2023, the state legislature actually passed a law that said the family or personal representative could request body camera footage. However, in that law, it doesn't say like the time limitations of when ALEA is required to provide that. And it also doesn't say like the rationale of why ALEA could actually deny the request. So it's not time limited and there's not a narrow scope on denial. So ALEA has the jurisdiction as the custodian of the record to go to do their review and view it with the family as they see appropriate. In this case, they're doing it after completing their investigation and turning it over to the district attorney, who will then coordinate with the family to view the body camera footage. So I will just say that as a city, I think it's been very, very hard with all of this, because the shooting of Jabari Latrell Peoples, who's an 18-year-old whose life ended in that moment, the same age as my own son, the future gone. That's heartbreaking in any situation, regardless of who's right or wrong. And I think that what has, in addition, been tragic and hard is how to deal with that as a community when it's pointing to us as representation of who we are as a community, which I don't think, I see Homewood as a very loving, caring, open, progressive community, and who celebrates diversity. And it's put us in the spotlight of dealing with this situation, which is hard, but I understand the frustration in the calls that are being made of Homewood, because it is what people demand and deserve, which is transparency.
Thank you for that. Homewood is entering a period of transformation with its government structure. Do you have any concern about representation going from a council of 11 people to a council of only 5?
I would say that making sure that all voices are represented is always a challenge and takes a lot of work. You can have 11, you can have 27, or you can have 5. But unless something intentionally is being done, then it really doesn't matter as much. And so when we looked at the council size, 11 is the largest council body in the state. So we saw that Homewood was outside of the norm already. So right sizing our government made sense in this transition to the council manager form of government. If you look at all the cities in the state of Alabama, like ranked on population from 18 to 31, okay, Homewood's 22. So 18 to 31, 31's Mountain Brook, by the way. You've got 13 cities, and all of them but 2 have a 5-member voting body. So 5-member voting body really is the most common amongst our peer cities. So in making the transition to the council manager form of government, which I think was critical for our city to make that move, we moved to a 5-member voting body, and I think institutionalizing the city manager role is the biggest win in all of it. It was more about that than changing the size of council, but based on the state code, it was part of the transition. I will say this too: if you look at Vestavia and Mountain Brook and Vestavia also have 5-member voting bodies. I think where we're going to be a little bit different, and one thing that was important is, so Mountain Brook and Vestavia, if I'm not mistaken, both have at-large council representation. We actually maintain district council representation in our transition, because I think it's important to have council representatives in different parts of your city representing those geographic places and also just those voices throughout the city. Because I still think, you eyes on your own street, you see things that others may not if you don't pass through those areas as frequently. So district representation we maintain, and I think that that's really important.
You spoke on this a little bit, but could you talk more about the benefits of this new system?
Yes, absolutely. So having a city manager means we have a full-time professional in City Hall. Previously, we've had a part-time mayor. We've grown to almost 28,000 residents. We're extremely dense as a city, as I mentioned before. We just need better accountability to taxpayer dollars. We need improved functions in City Hall. So looking at HR functions, looking at just our code and zoning enforcement, those type things that are critical within a city that's as dense as ours. And then also thinking about interdepartmental coordination, centralized purchasing. We've just got a lot of opportunity for improved government efficiency and effectiveness that we're going to progress with now that we have someone who's both full-time and a professional in local governance.
All right, last question.
Okay.
In one sentence, why should people vote for you?
I'm asking people for their vote because my background's in public administration. I'm a proven leader and I'm a thoughtful leader.
Great, love that. Thank you so much, Mr. Sims. You were a
Thanks for
great
joining
guest.
Thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for tuning in to In the Running. We'll see you next episode, and don't forget to vote in the Homewood City elections on August 26th. Bye.